Connections podcast. I'm your host, King. Sitting here with my guest on the King Connections podcast today, Mr. Landen Conner. Landen, how you doing today?
I'm doing fine, King. How about yourself?
Doing great, doing great. I want to thank you for your investment of time and energy in joining the show today. Definitely looking forward to having this conversation with you. So one of the things I like to begin the show with is ask this question to kind of set the context. That is, what's your spiritual energy number? And what I mean by that is a number between 0 being life sucks to 10 being life is awesome. Where would you say you fit in that spectrum?
I would say probably about a 7.58, somewhere up in there on any given day.
Good. I like that because I asked that question because I get a lot of people that say, when I used to have my live events, so when I have my meetings and someone says 2s or 3s, now, I would say that's not a good time to do the meeting because, your energy is not going to be in alignment with mine and then we won't get product. But, 7s and 8s are better because we can create a lot of wonderful things. So thank you for indulging me with that question.
Yeah, not a problem at all.
So my first question I want to begin with is, and this is a question I love to ask individuals. This is one of my connections I use now in any relationship that I build, and because to me it's really valued at this stage of my life. And that is, what is your purpose in life? What do you see your purpose in life?
In a roundabout way, I've come to discover that my purpose is to unite people. In going about that in a roundabout way with my background, it was more to have to allow people to be heard and seen for the first time. And I started to realize that we're not much different, no matter gender, race. It's just how we deal with different circumstances throughout the day.
Absolutely. And my next question is, in this whole world that I'm a part of conscious leadership, conscious businesses, that term gets thrown out quite a bit about conscious leader this, conscious leader that. What I've learned is people have different definitions of how to define consciousness and conscious leaders in particular.
Yeah.
I'm always curious to know how people define conscious leaders. So how would you define a conscious leader?
I don't know if you ever, let me know if you ever heard this one before. I would say a conscious leader is someone that has a grace mindset, but more so can they submit to a process, a situation, or a person. That's what I would say a conscious leader is that.
I haven't heard of that, but I like it. I like the grateful mindset, grace mindset, and submitting. I think that takes a lot for particularly men to say submit. And prior to reading this book called Caesar's Way, Caesar Milan is a dog whisperer, and a lot of great advice on life, not just dogs. He talks about how he uses energy, but he says basically any person you talk to, a dog or not, it's basically going to be 4 or 3 things, 4 key activities or actions they're going to take: fight, flight, surrender, avoidance. But when he says surrender, it's meaning that you allow yourself to be open to the conversation, not just surrendering to a person like allowing or belowing, but just being open to come from the conversation, not being closed-minded.
Yeah, I was, and that's how it kind of came about. But submitting to that person to see if, like the first question you asked me, what was my spiritual level on? Well, if my spiritual level is on the 2, I have 2 options. I could blow the person off, or I can see if we can get that spiritual level up to maybe a 6 or 7 to meet it, because I don't have any idea what they're going through. So I'm submitting myself to this person to see if there's any way that we can that I can be a blessing to them, whether it's a smile, a simple conversation, maybe just a laugh, because it's taking them away from the things that they're going through on a daily basis.
That's real. I like that. And in alignment with that, my next question would be, what are you most grateful for?
That's a really good question. Other than my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, I would say learning, finding out what can I learn each day. I asked my wife this: what did you learn today? And it may seem simple, and people think they have to come over the top, but it may be just as simple as you learn to say thank you, please. It can be simple. It doesn't always have to be over the top.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's one of the things I actually on a daily basis, and I say my gratitude moment in the mornings, and I say it at the end of the night. But I'm always grateful for things that I've learned, whether it's positive or negative, or things I experience, and may I learn from the negatives so that I won't repeat it. So absolutely, that's definitely in line with what I'm believing on.
It's funny you should say that because I had dinner with a colleague or a friend of mine that came in town, and we joined a community that was like a $3,000 of work that they sent you clients, and it didn't pan out. But she was like, "I'm so sorry that X, Y, and Z happened." I'm like, "For what?" That was a great learning experience because I learned what not to do in my business and how to pivot to make my clients' lives better.
Well, what you just shared right there, mindset, because the ability to be able to look at bad experiences and use the term pivot. I know I had to go through that myself recently. A major pivot, losing actually $1 million in real estate and business development, and having to pivot and still keeping a very open and grateful mindset through that. So for you to share what you're sharing, that shows growth. And I looked at it like that because most people will internalize losing money, any form of money, $5, $2,000, whatever it is. They're gonna be upset. They're gonna complain about it, and all you can do is learn and grow. Like you said, you learn now. You understand better how to evaluate a scenario, what better to look for, and how to hold people accountable differently when you make investments in those kind of situations. And then, like you, I've definitely invested in companies promising me they can bring me leads, and I've learned that the leads they brought me weren't the leads I wanted, wasn't quality leads. But as you say, it's a lesson learned. So now when I get those solicitations, which I constantly get, I know now how to push those people away. I say, listen, you can bring the leads you say you bring, I'll make a deal with you. Do it first, and then once the people sign up, I'll pay you a nice commission. And every one of them go with me that what you're saying is not as valuable as what you say it is.
Yeah. And all of that you just said is something one of my business coaches tell me, always do a fresh fruit check. And he pretty much did the same thing. Hey, if you promise you can bring me leads, first off, I need to know, are they the right leads for my organization? Or you just put me in a template? Because if you put me in a template, then you're going to bring me leads that does nothing for me.
Right.
And it's not a selfish thing, but I can't make an impact in the wrong community. Like one of my best friends said, if I'm fishing in the wrong pond, what type of impact am I making?
Absolutely. Definitely powerful. Now, I want to kind of switch to talking about your company. I know that you created you're the founder and the owner of Landen Conner Photo. So so this is a two-part question. Can you tell me what's the mission of Landen Conner Photo, and what was the inspiration of actually Conner Photo as well?
Truthfully, the mission changed. The initial mission was to start my own business and to gain freedom from a 9 to 5. I was literally sitting in a cubicle as a pharmacist, and it felt like I was just saying, "Do you want fries with that?" Because that was the mantra and the script that they gave. But I'm like, people's health is just more than medication. And one of my friends at the time called me and said, "Man, I'm making an X, Y, and Z amount of money with photography." I'm like, "Nah, you can't be doing that." And lo and behold, I picked up the camera, learned from people that was teaching, and then something different happened. I thought it was more about the photo, but it was nothing about the photo. It became about the person, their struggles. I would hear things in front of camera that I never thought I would hear, from neglect to bad marriages to poor situations where they were upbringing, and it all had an internal effect. So taking the photo, Landen Conner Photo, it actually became marketing and branding, not only to themselves to realize, hey, you're worth it, you're beautiful, you're handsome as a guy, but you matter. Now it's pivoting into the expansion phase where we're about to launch the website impact branding. So showing what makes you unique to others in broadcasting that to your target audience. So you're not getting that templated marketing, but you're attracting who you want to attract using your voice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, in your experience as an entrepreneur, and in particular as a person who helps businesses kind of do their personal branding and get their messaging out there and utilizing their photos, what would you say you've seen is some of the greatest mistakes that small minority business owners make in their business?
Looking like everybody else, being the best average they could be. And that is just not minorities, that's all across the board.
Definitely want to be able to set yourself apart from others, right?
Like there's something special about you, King. If we sat down and talked, then I'm gonna listen. Then I'm gonna read where you've served others. Do those things align? Next is the imagery that we have. Does that connect with what your audience wants? The uniqueness that I have is not only to look at my client, but look into my client's client and then give them what they want.
Now, I know this seems like a very simple question, but I believe you have a unique answer on this, so I want to give you the opportunity to share that.
Sure.
How would you define personal brand?
Truthfully, it's everything you do. Every time somebody comes in contact with you or something that you're connected with, whether it's a hello, a handshake at a networking event, whether it's a business card, whether it's you and I building a relationship and you're talking to a friend. If you're talking to your friend, you say, I know a photographer, call this guy. 9 times out of 10, that's not happening. But if you said something like, this guy changed my life. I used to be struggling in this area with how putting a face to my company. Now I'm confident in putting my face to a company on my company. I'm confident with going on camera and talking in front millions, thousands. That's a totally different referral. Getting referrals that sell, getting referrals that matter, that speak to an audience.
Now, appreciate that answer. Shifting back to a question personally about you, and my question would be, what are you most committed to?
Making sure everyone that comes in, that I come in contact with, if there's any way I can bless them, whether it's being heard or giving up my time, and I'm not saying why I'm wasting time, but giving them just a small amount of time to make them feel heard, unique, and special. That's that. You can't put a price on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What advice would you give to a person saying, well, I'm about to transition into doing a business online, and I'm really concerned about my, so I know LinkedIn has a certain look as far as professionalism. So what would you recommend how they go about choosing the photo, or you walking them through how you would actually help to set their professional image up?
One of my first questions that I ask is, who do you want to track? Or even better one that's really hard is, what things do you stand for? Who are you? Because if you don't know who you are, then it's more than just image. But we have to get that baseline established so we know what message we want to communicate through imagery.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, here's another question I'm curious about, because I always like to ask people this. I know, speaking for myself, and I know it's not an easy question to answer because it may be several different decisions. But I can always go back to at least one decision I know that I made that has been the most significant or most meaningful in my life thus far. So my question for you would be, has there been one decision you've made that has been the most significant and meaningful in your life thus far?
Yes, absolutely. And it has nothing to do with business. It has nothing to do with how many clients you get. It's making a decision to become debt free. You would say that's crazy, but when you're debt free, you make different decisions as a business owner. You look for different avenues. Do I have to drop 10,000 here? Hmm. Like you said, if a marketing company that's templated comes at me and say, "Hey, it's $10,000 to work with us," are you paying? Are you paying them for proven results? Are they throwing you in a funnel for $10,000 for them to experiment with your money? Or can you figure out and make the right connections and get help and get the results you want?
Love that answer. I love that answer because you're absolutely right. That's one of the things I see so many people struggle as small business owners is that they don't have the reserves to make those kind of decisions financially. So they're always looking for a deal. So they approach business like a consumer, where consumers look for sales. Right? They want to save as much money as they can, where an entrepreneur, a business-minded person is looking for value. If I invest $10,000, what am I going to make off this $10,000? You know, and that's a whole different mindset. So thank you for sharing that, because I think that definitely helps set the context for how you move like as a business professional and the importance of, I like to say, being bad debt free, you know, in that context, and the moves you can make by being free.
That's something so critical, what you just said. That mindset to flip from going from spending money to, let me look at this as an investment. It's like the same thing with the vehicle. We know Toyotas are going to be for longevity. But let's say if we go with another manufacturer because it looks beautiful, what if it breaks down 2-3 years down the line? You know it's got bad reviews. What's the mindset? But you know Toyota's going to be here for 15 to 20 years. But I want to look cool. Same thing.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I've seen people that I know who have some financial wherewithal reserves, and they'll say, I'm reading the reviews on a Jaguar or a Range Rover truck. And my mindset is, if you're going to spend that kind of money on those, you don't look at the reviews because that's something you lease. You know, you're not looking for those kind of vehicles to last more than 2 or 3 years. So every 2 years, you be upping because you're just concerned about the look. But when you're looking to make an investment in a vehicle that's going to be sound, like you say, I have a 2008 Toyota Highlander hybrid, and still runs great. I don't see any value right now in upgrading, you know, because it gets me where I need to go. It has all the amenities I need, and I'm satisfied with it.
Yeah. And people look at it as a car. Okay, so you bring it back to business. One thing I started to do is pay attention to people that have actually been through the fire, been through the work of building a business. Those people spend money a lot, invest money a lot differently versus those. And I'm not saying nothing's wrong with it. When you get sponsorship money, you tend to want to go big. And that's not always a great thing because you have a lot of blind spots that you need to hold. A lot of blind spots that you need to maybe monitor. So money really does amplify problems that you may not have had if you had just taken your time.
Absolutely. A friend of mine, which was like a mentor, exposed me to real estate when I first got started back in '88. He told me that, and I didn't want to accept this at the time. He was like, starting a business broke is to be the best thing for you. You know, I was coming from a fashion where I had some capital to start my business. I said, he must be out of his mind. Why would I want to start a business broke? And I quickly went out there, got a secretary, got an office, got letterhead. I brought little tchotchkes and all these things, and wasted tons of money. And that's not money I would have used had I started broke and had to make the right decisions that was based on my needs and let myself grow into those kind of things. I didn't need a secretary starting off. I didn't know how to even hire people or what to tell her what to do, you know. But now I had an instant bill every 2 weeks of someone telling me like, well, you hired me, so what are you giving me to do? So what you're saying is definitely spot on. I think it's definitely some great advice. Now, in my business, I'm in the business of building relationships and building connections. And in order to do that, my background is system engineering. So I'm a data-driven individual. Data drives all of my decisions on what I do. So I have a methodology and a process for how I go about building connections, relationships. I define key characteristics that I look for in each person. But then I had to do a deep introspective analysis and say, well, first, before I can hold someone else to these key characteristics, I have to exhibit these myself. Right. So now, like a growth minded being one of those things I look for. Grateful spirit is another thing I'm looking for. Because if a person doesn't have those two things initially, more than likely we're not going to be able to have anything in alignment, whether they're a client or whether they're a strategic partner. So I'm always curious to know the other individuals, especially when you look on LinkedIn and you're making connections, are there certain key characteristics you look for in a new connection before you connect with someone or accept a connection request from someone?
One of the big ones I'm seeing that's a big red flag is if you value property and you even said hi. That in looking at it from a personal branding standpoint, that's one of the worst ways to first display your personal brand. I would say just asking certain questions, and if you say if you really want help, like you and I were talking, and let's connect. We had a conversation before this, and got great vibes off of it because the person that you're talking to is going to give value if they really, really want to help you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, one of the things that I do for companies and small businesses and my clients is I help them find what I call strategic partners. I believe that, no one is successful making it on their own.
No.
We all need other people in our lives to help us get over the next level or help us get to the next level, and within that context, who would you say would be a great strategic partner for you?
Someone that knows people that need help with or a business that struggles with showing why they are unique, why they are different. They know people that they want their business in excellence, not perfection, but excellence. What they in magnifying those excellent things that they do. It can be as small as writing a simple thank you note.
I like that. I like your answers. I definitely see the value in as looking at ways you and I can partner together because of our alignment with a lot of the things we're talking about. And now my next question kind of shifts more back to a personal question about you. And it could be business related if you're so inclined based on your answer. But I noticed that you're married, you're an entrepreneur. You talked about previously being a pharmacist, so you've made some significant successes in your life and I know as a Black man, you've had to overcome a great deal of things in order to get to where you are. I tell folks that it's not about being Black or white in this question, but I do know this, that if you're Black, it's going to be a tougher road. That's a fact, right? And so with that being said, of all the things you have accomplished in your life, what would you say has been the most rewarding?
Most rewarding. I would say the impact I make in people's lives. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, Ken. There's certain days as a pharmacist, as a husband, as now an entrepreneur. There's days that nobody talks about this. You don't want to be bothered, and you don't want to do the work. Am I lying?
No, you're not.
But my prayer is always, who can I bless today? So when I come in contact with those people, all the stuff that I was dealing with, I don't feel like doing this. I always look at it as the challenge. If I don't do this, what may happen to that person? And I was I'll share a quick story. I was at a conference. I was actually working, and this guy said something that just cut through me working, and I actually had to stop. And he said, we come in contact with 15 to 20 interactions per day. And I want to say he said at least 80% of those people are going through something. So if I can help one person just change the trajectory just a little bit, not do a complete 180, but just like you ever read the book Who Moved My Cheese?
Yes.
if they can go to that small path to find the next piece of cheese, it may change everything about their life.
That's powerful. That's powerful insight, and that's powerful. And I listen to the words you choose. Who can I bless today?
Yeah.
Right. That's definitely a deliberate word, and I just what a blessing can do for someone. I think that's key and critical. And listening to you, and you talked about there's certain days, as an entrepreneur, as a pharmacist, as a husband, I'm sure that as you mentioned, you just don't want to be bothered, right?
Yeah.
But you get through that. So my question would be, and I know I go through my morning rituals, my evening rituals to get myself in this conscious state of mind of being positive and being that light in the energy of light and love as best I possibly can be, despite what may be going on internally. My question for you would be, are there certain morning rituals that you do to kind of get yourself prepared to go out here and deal with the challenges and obstacles and lessons of the day as I actually want to bring to you?
Yeah, I mean, every morning I start off my day of prayer and meditation with Christ. Then I proceed to podcasts. And I listen to so many people's stories. Like one of my favorite podcasts is the Dave Ramsey Show. Now, I took the principles and became debt free, but it also taught me that it's more than just the money. What about the single? Let's just say a hypothetical scenario. I was doing financial coaching with a single mom. She wants to provide the best for her son, but is feeling trapped. It would be insane for me to say, "Hey, go get another credit card," and now she has another burden that's going to be 3, 4 months down the line when that bill comes. So, can we find some options? Just one option that changes everything for her. That's just what it's about. Sometimes like everybody's looking for the big goal, and sometimes a small nugget changes the entire trajectory.
Absolutely it does. Now, my next two questions will be my final questions, but two of my favorite questions because it really helps me learn a lot about an individual. And I'm going to define it before I finish answering the question. That is, is there a king connection you would like to meet? And what I mean by a king connection, I'm not necessarily a play on my name or my company name, an individual who I define myself as someone who has reached a level of success, whether it's financial, career, where you admire this individual. And if you were to meet this individual and you all were to co-create something, then something great can be created that co-creation, that collaboration. Now, and I'm not talking about as a fan. It could be a celebrity, it could be someone famous, but I'm not talking about meeting them as a fan. I'm talking about meeting them as someone you're creating and you're going to work together to do something great with. Now, for me, that person is Magic Johnson. Now, as a real estate consultant, developer, I would love to bring Magic Johnson and work together to build out a conscious community initiative to really transform neighborhoods throughout the United States. But my process and my reason for asking that question is I develop a methodology and a strategy for how to individuals where you don't come in here and leverage he's here. You come where he actually sees you as a possible co-creator in this process. Now with that context, who would be a great king connection for you to meet?
Man, that's a question I've never been hit with before. There's a couple. Truthfully, when I actually thinking about it, I believe I've met her. In it was within my current chamber that I'm in. She had a vision for growing the chamber US wide. And my thing was what I offered her was not just photography, but how can we change the face completely of this specific chamber to where people are invited and they want to do business because of the negative connotations that they had. Can we change the face and make it not just black, not just white, but all nationalities so we understand what each other is going through and we can conquer things together. And her name is Crystal Parker. She's completely changed my life and I'm very thankful for her.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Respect that. Now, my last question would be, is there a book that you would recommend that has had the most impact in your, or either the most impact in your week, depending on which your spirit inclines you to share?
Can it be more than one is a better question.
Absolutely.
Um, Mind States. That book was, whew, I believe it's by Miss Carol Dweck. That book was life changing because I heard you referencing earlier about growth mindset versus a fixed mindset.
Yes.
Um, the introvert edge, and I'm not saying that speaking from an introverted standpoint, because I don't believe in titles and labels, but it helped you realize if you develop different methodologies, different systems, you know where to go. Story brand was very big. And I would say the last one is more, it's based for finding a new job, but it was phenomenal because it helped me to understand people like yourself that's making connections. And what is the name of that book? I always forget his name. It's by Ken Coleman, uh, and it just escaped me. I can't remember it, Ken. I can shoot it to you afterwards and let you know what book that is.
Okay. I appreciate that. We
Hmm.
begin to bring this interview to a close. I want to give you the opportunity to share any closing thoughts that you might have that you think would be pertinent for our listening audience, as well as any contact information so how they can get in contact with you.
Sure.
Want to learn more about your business and yourself.
My the thing I would say, even in closing, is I would tell people, whatever makes you unique, whatever makes you special, ask your friends, ask your coworkers, embrace that, and take that and make that your daily task to make someone else's life better. If you don't know, I have discovered what makes you unique sessions and how to build off those sessions. Best way to contact me is either through LinkedIn or simply give me a call, 504-905-2249.
And I will put Landon's information in the show description when I put this out there. So for the listening audience, if you didn't get that, there will be the link and link to his contact, his LinkedIn profile as well. So
King, I
Landon,
just remembered it. The Proximity Principle. The Proximity Principle by Ken Coleman. That was a game changer.
proximity principle. Okay, well,
Yep.
thank you. Thank you. And thank you for investing of your time and energy and joining me on this discussion. I appreciate you for your honesty and your forthcoming answers, and definitely learned a lot from our conversation. I look forward to the infinite possibilities of what we can do together going forward. And listening audience, thank you all for listening to another episode of King Connections. This has been a wonderful interview, and I encourage you all to reach out to Landon, the brother. At the very least, I would say, if you don't do business with him, feel it, you will get value from that. So thank you all. Everyone, have a blessed and productive day.
Thank you, Ken.